Life has a strange way of teaching us this truth. The more we try to control everything, the more exhausted we become. We try to control the outcome, the timing, the reaction of other people, the speed of success, even the path life should take. We plan, push, overthink, and tighten our grip, believing that if we just try harder, everything will finally fall into place. But often, the opposite happens. The harder we force, the heavier life feels. The more we chase certainty, the more anxiety we create inside ourselves. Stoicism begins with a simple but uncomfortable question. What if your suffering is not coming from life itself, but from your demand that life obey your expectations? Marcus Aurelius understood that peace is not found by forcing reality to bend to your will. Peace begins when you stop wasting your strength on what is outside your control and return your attention to what is truly yours. Your mind, your actions, your discipline, your response. The real battle is not always with people, circumstances, or delays. The real battle is within learning to shape your judgment while letting go of everything that was never yours to command. This is what we are going to examine, a Stoic mindset shift that can change how you approach success, relationships, and inner peace. If you constantly feel stressed, as if no matter what you do, life refuses to move the way you want, there may be a reason. You may be holding too tightly to outcomes that were never fully in your hands. And when you learn to release that grip, not by giving up, but by acting with wisdom and trust, you begin to move through life with a different kind of confidence. Calm, grounded, and no longer desperate. Before we go deeper, if this kind of Stoic wisdom helps you, subscribe to the channel. It takes less than a second, but it helps bring these reflections to more people who need calm, discipline, and strength in a noisy world. Now, let's begin with the first lesson. Detach from the outcome. We spend so much of our lives obsessing over results. We wait for the job offer, hope the relationship works out, worry whether our effort will finally pay off, and tell ourselves that happiness will arrive only when life gives us the exact result we want. But the more we cling to a specific outcome, the more anxious we become. The process stops feeling meaningful because our peace depends entirely on something we cannot fully control. This is where we trap ourselves. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that we suffer not only because of what happens, but because of our attachment to what we insist must happen. In other words, if your happiness depends on life unfolding exactly according to your plan, then your peace is always fragile. A Stoic does not abandon effort. A Stoic simply stops making inner peace dependent on the final result. You control your effort, your discipline, your attitude, your preparation, and your character. The outcome belongs to a larger field of forces you cannot completely command. Think of an artist painting a masterpiece. If the artist is obsessed with making every brushstroke perfect and terrified of how people will judge the finished work, the hand becomes tense and the mind becomes noisy. But when the artist returns to the act of painting itself, something changes. The work begins to flow. Not because the artist stopped caring, but because the artist stopped being enslaved by the result. Life works the same way. You often perform better when you stop begging life for guarantees. This is especially clear in relationships. Have you ever seen someone try too hard to impress another person? Their energy feels needy, forced, and anxious. They overexplain, overgive, overtext, and slowly push away the very connection they are trying to create. But a person who is calm within themselves carries a different presence. They care, but they do not chase. They show interest, but they do not abandon self-respect. They trust that what is real does not need to be forced. The same principle applies to success. Many people treat life like a strict checklist. Graduate by this age, make this much money, get married by this time, reach this level, before everyone else passes them. And when life does not follow that timeline, they fall into self-doubt. But success is rarely a straight path. It comes through turns, setbacks, delays, and unexpected openings. If you are too attached to one exact outcome, you may miss an even better direction life is trying to reveal. So, ask yourself honestly, what are you holding too tightly right now? What goal, expectation, relationship, or timeline is stealing your peace? Now imagine releasing that grip. Not quitting, not becoming passive, not pretending you do not care, but deciding that your inner peace will no longer depend on whether life obeys your preferred schedule. That is detachment. To practice this, begin with 3 simple disciplines. First, remind yourself daily that outcomes are not fully yours. Your effort is yours. Your discipline is yours. Your response is yours. Second, reframe your thinking. Instead of saying, "I need this to happen," say, "I will do my part and trust that whatever happens will train me." Third, return to the present moment. The more fully you live in what you can do now, the less power the uncertain future has over your mind. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing things to happen one specific way in order to feel whole. It means you work hard without worshiping the result. You love deeply without trying to control another person. You pursue success without turning one outcome into your identity. And once you understand this, you are ready for the next Stoic lesson, mastering the mind that gives every event its meaning. The second Stoic lesson is this: master your mindset, or your mindset will master you. Life will always bring pressure. Some days everything seems to move smoothly, and other days one problem follows another until you start believing the world is against you. But the difference between the person who collapses and the person who remains steady is not luck. It is the way they interpret what is happening. The same obstacle can break one person and strengthen another, depending on the mind that meets it. You cannot control everything around you. You cannot control the economy, other people's choices, unexpected delays, criticism, rejection, or the sudden problems that interrupt your plans. But you can control the judgment you form about those things. That is where Stoicism becomes practical. Marcus Aurelius understood that events do not automatically control the soul. What disturbs us most is often not the event itself, but the meaning we attach to it. If your mind turns every difficulty into a personal attack, life will feel unbearable. But if your mind sees difficulty as training, the same moment becomes useful. This is why you must stop believing every thought that enters your head. A thought can appear without being true. Fear can speak loudly and still be wrong. Doubt can feel convincing and still be nothing more than an old habit. When something goes wrong, the untrained mind reacts immediately. I am failing. I am not good enough. This always happens to me. Nothing will work out. But the Stoic mind pauses. It asks, is this reality, or is this fear interpreting reality for me? Imagine you're struggling at work. You make mistakes, your boss pressures you, and suddenly your confidence starts to fall. One mindset says, I am terrible at this. I will never improve. Maybe I am not capable. That thought traps you. It turns pressure into identity. But another mindset says, this is uncomfortable, but it is teaching me. Every mistake is showing me what to correct. This pressure is training my patience, humility, and discipline. The situation may be the same, but the person inside it becomes completely different. The Stoics believe that every challenge gives us a chance to practice virtue. When someone frustrates you, you practice patience. When life becomes uncertain, you practice courage. When failure humbles you, you practice wisdom. When you feel tempted to quit, you practice resilience. Seneca said that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor strengthens the body. In other words, pressure is not always there to destroy you. Sometimes it is there to build the part of you that comfort never could. But mastering your mindset does not happen overnight. It is daily training. Start by watching your inner dialogue. Are you constantly feeding yourself fear, doubt, and complaint? Are you planting thoughts that make you weaker, smaller, and more anxious? Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you repeat begins to grow. If you plant panic every day, panic becomes familiar. If you plant discipline, clarity, and courage, those qualities begin to take root. Another powerful practice is to return to the present moment. Most stress comes from living in the past or the future. You replay old mistakes, old conversations, old wounds, and then you run ahead, imagining everything that could go wrong. But your power is not in yesterday, and it is not in a future that has not arrived. Your power is here. When you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself one simple question. What can I do right now that is within my control? That question brings the mind back from panic to action. This is the heart of Stoic mindset. You do not wait for life to become easy before becoming strong. You become strong by meeting life with a trained mind. You stop reacting to every fear. You stop turning every delay into a disaster. You stop letting one difficult moment define your entire future. Instead, you choose your response, correct your thinking, and act from reason rather than emotion. A mastered mind does not mean a life without problems. It means problems no longer own you. The world may remain unpredictable, people may disappoint you, and plans may change without warning, but your inner command becomes harder to shake. And once you begin to master your mindset, the next lesson becomes unavoidable. You must learn patience, because life will not always move according to your schedule. The third Stoic lesson is this: trust the timing of life. Patience is one of the hardest virtues to practice, especially when you have already worked, already tried, already shown up, and still nothing seems to be happening. You look around and see other people moving faster, reaching goals sooner, receiving answers while you are still waiting. Then the mind begins to question everything. Am I behind? Did I make the wrong choice? Is life refusing me what I have worked for? But Stoicism teaches that life does not move according to our impatience. It has its own rhythm, and much of our suffering comes from trying to rush what requires time. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly. Wisdom is not created suddenly. Strength is not created suddenly. Success, character, skill, trust, and emotional mastery are not created in one moment. They are built slowly through repetition, pressure, failure, correction, and time." Think of a tree. You cannot force it to grow faster by pulling on its branches. You can give it good soil, water, sunlight, and protection, but the growth itself follows a rhythm beyond your control. If you become angry because the tree is not taller by your deadline, the problem is not the tree. The problem is your demand that nature obey your schedule. Life works the same way. You can prepare, act, improve, and remain disciplined, but you cannot force the result to arrive before its season. This is where many people give up too early. They plant seeds, then dig them up every day looking for proof. They begin something meaningful, but because the reward is not immediate, they assume nothing is working. A young artist may spend years creating work nobody notices. They may pour their heart into their craft, watch others get recognition faster, and feel tempted to quit. But every piece, every mistake, every unseen hour is still shaping the hand, the eye, and the discipline needed for the future. We live in a culture that hates waiting. Fast food, fast information, fast entertainment, fast opinions, fast success stories. Everything trains the mind to expect quick results. But the things that actually matter often require time. A strong relationship takes time. A clear mind takes time. A real skill takes time. A meaningful life takes time. If you only value the final result, you miss the person you are becoming through the process. The Stoic question is not only, when will this happen? The better question is, who am I becoming while I wait? Are you becoming bitter, anxious, and desperate? Or are you becoming steadier, wiser, more disciplined, and harder to disturb? Waiting is not always empty. Sometimes waiting is training. Sometimes the delay is not denial. Sometimes life is preparing you to carry what you once would have mishandled. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to accept what life brings and meet it with character. That does not mean every delay feels good. It means you stop wasting energy arguing with reality. If things are not happening as fast as you want, perhaps this season is still shaping you. Perhaps your discipline is being strengthened. Perhaps your patience is being tested. Perhaps you are not being punished. You are being prepared. So how do you practice this? Focus on what is still within your control. You cannot control the exact timing, but you can control whether you keep showing up. You cannot control when the opportunity appears, but you can control whether you are ready when it does. You cannot control how quickly others recognize your value, but you can control whether you continue living by your values. Timing is not fully yours. Preparation is. When impatience rises, return to the present task. Ask yourself, what can I do today that strengthens the person I am becoming? Do the work. Improve the skill. Practice restraint. Keep your word. Take the next honest step. Do not spend your life staring at the horizon and cursing the distance. Walk the path beneath your feet. Trusting life's timing does not mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means acting with discipline while refusing to panic over the parts you cannot command. It means understanding that what is truly valuable does not always arrive quickly, but it does shape the person who is willing to endure the process. And once you learn patience, the next lesson becomes clear. You must act with purpose, not desperation. The fourth Stoic lesson is this: act with purpose, not desperation. Have you ever noticed that the more desperately you chase something, the further away it seems to move? A job, a relationship, success, recognition, approval. When your energy becomes frantic, everything starts to feel heavier. You push harder, speak faster, worry more, and try to force life to give you proof that you are safe. But desperation rarely creates strength. It usually creates pressure, confusion, and poor decisions. There is a powerful difference between taking action and acting from fear. Purpose says, "This matters, so I will approach it with discipline." Desperation says, "If I do not get this, I will not be okay." Purpose is calm, focused, and grounded. Desperation is scattered, anxious, and needy. Stoicism does not teach you to stop pursuing what matters. It teaches you to stop pursuing it as if your entire worth depends on the outcome. Epictetus taught that we must first decide what kind of person we want to be, and then do what such a person must do. That is the foundation of purposeful action. Before you act, ask yourself why you are acting. Are you making this decision because it aligns with your values, or because you are afraid of falling behind? Are you chasing this relationship because it is healthy, or because you are afraid of being alone? Are you pursuing success because it is meaningful, or because you need applause to feel valuable? Imagine two people searching for a job. The first person is desperate. They apply everywhere, even to positions they do not want. Every rejection feels personal. Every unanswered email becomes proof that life is against them. Their energy becomes rushed, anxious, and uncertain. The second person also works hard, but with purpose. They understand their strengths, prepare carefully, improve their skills, and apply with intention. They do not treat every rejection as a final judgment on their worth. They learn, adjust, and continue. The difference is not that one person cares and the other does not. The difference is inner command. One person is being pulled by fear. The other is being guided by clarity. A Stoic does not measure action only by how much effort is spent. He asks whether the action comes from wisdom, self-respect, and discipline. Because if your effort is driven by panic, you may work hard and still move in the wrong direction. This applies deeply to relationships. When someone enters a relationship from desperation, they often lose themselves. They overtext, over-explain, overgive, and confuse attachment with love. They are not simply trying to connect. They are trying to escape the fear of not being chosen. That kind of energy feels heavy because it asks another person to become the source of your peace. But when you act from self-respect, everything changes. You can care without chasing. You can show interest without begging. You can love without abandoning your dignity. People are naturally drawn to those who are secure within themselves, not because they are cold or indifferent, but because they are not trying to force connection. They are grounded. They know their value does not rise or fall with one person's response. That is purposeful action in relationships. Honest, calm, respectful, and free from the need to control another person's heart. The same principle applies to your goals. A desperate person reacts to every delay as if it is a disaster. They rush decisions, accept things that do not align with them, and say yes from fear instead of wisdom. But a purposeful person slows down long enough to see clearly. They do not confuse speed with progress. They understand that the right action taken calmly is often more powerful than 10 anxious actions taken in panic. Think of a beginner in chess. The beginner reacts impulsively, moves out of fear, and tries to escape every threat immediately. But an experienced player sees the larger board. They know not every moment requires force. Sometimes patience is the strongest move. Sometimes restraint protects the game. Life works the same way. If you are always reacting from fear, you create more chaos. If you step back and act with clarity, your choices become stronger. Seneca said that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Much of desperation comes from imagined fear. What if I fail? What if they leave? What if I miss my chance? What if I am not good enough? But a Stoic does not build his life around fear's predictions. He returns to the present question. What is the wise action right now? Not the frantic action. Not the action that proves something to others. The wise action. So how do you shift from desperation to purpose? First, get clear on your reason. Ask yourself, am I doing this from strength or from fear? Second, slow down. Desperation rushes because it believes everything will disappear. Purpose moves with patience because it trusts discipline. Third, return to your values. If the action requires you to lose your dignity, betray your character, or abandon your peace, it is not aligned. You do not need to force what is meant to grow through steady effort. You do not need to beg for what requires self-respect. You do not need to panic your way into success. Act with discipline. Prepare well. Speak honestly. Take the necessary step. But do not let fear be the hand that guides you. When you move from purpose instead of desperation, your life becomes less chaotic. Your decisions become cleaner, and your peace becomes harder to disturb. This is Stoic action. Calm, deliberate, and rooted in character. You still pursue the goal, but you do not worship it. You still care, but you do not cling. You still move forward, but you do not abandon yourself to get there. And once you understand this, the next lesson becomes unavoidable. To live with true freedom, you must learn to let go of control. The fifth Stoic lesson is this. Let go of control. Have you ever felt exhausted from trying to make everything happen exactly the way you imagined? You plan, push, prepare, overthink, and still life refuses to follow your script. People do not respond the way you hoped. Opportunities do not arrive on your schedule. The future remains uncertain, no matter how many times you replay it in your mind. And the harder you grip, the more tired you become. This is one of the great paradoxes of life. The more you try to control what is not yours, the less peace you have. Stoicism teaches that true freedom is not found in controlling the world around you, but in mastering the world within you. Epictetus taught that freedom comes from releasing what lies beyond our control. That means your peace cannot depend on other people's opinions, the timing of success, the past you cannot change, or a future you cannot fully predict. Your power is in your thoughts, your actions, your discipline, your choices, and your response. Take relationships as an example. Many people spend years trying to change someone else. They want a partner, friend, or family member to become more understanding, more loyal, more supportive, or more aligned with their expectations. But people are not ours to control. You can speak honestly, you can set boundaries, you can choose who stays close to you, but you cannot force another person to grow, love, listen, or change before they are willing. When you finally accept that, you stop wasting your soul trying to manage someone else's character. This does not mean you become passive. It means you become clear. You stop asking, how can I make them act the way I want? And begin asking, what is the wise response from me? Maybe the wise response is patience. Maybe it is a direct conversation. Maybe it is forgiveness. Maybe it is distance. But the power returns to you because you are no longer begging reality to become something it is not. The same is true with success. There is nothing wrong with effort. You should work, prepare, improve, and take action. But there is a difference between effort and control. Effort says, I will do my part with discipline. Control says, this must happen exactly when and how I want, or I will fall apart. Effort makes you stronger. Control makes you anxious. Effort keeps you present. Control pulls you into fear. Imagine preparing for an important interview. You research, practice, and do everything within your power. That is discipline. But then your mind starts racing. What if they reject me? What if I say the wrong thing? What if this is my only chance? Suddenly, you are no longer trusting your preparation. You are trying to control the entire outcome in your imagination. And when you walk into the room, your energy is tense instead of grounded. But when you accept that you have done your part and release the rest, you become calmer, clearer, and more present. Seneca said that fate leads the willing and drags the reluctant. Life will move whether you approve of its timing or not. People will make choices whether you agree with them or not. Circumstances will shift whether you feel ready or not. The question is not whether you can control everything. You cannot. The real question is whether you will meet what happens with resistance or with wisdom. So how do you begin letting go of control? First, separate what is yours from what is not. Your effort is yours. The result is not fully yours. Your honesty is yours. Someone else's reaction is not yours. Your preparation is yours. The timing is not yours. Your response is yours. The past is not. The moment you stop pouring energy into what you cannot command, you recover strength for what you can actually shape. Second, practice acceptance. Acceptance does not mean you like everything that happens. It means you stop fighting the fact that it happened. Life will not always follow your plan, but that does not mean life is going wrong. Sometimes the delay protects you. Sometimes the closed door redirects you. Sometimes the person who leaves reveals the self-respect you forgot to protect. A Stoic does not need to understand everything immediately in order to remain steady. Finally, trust yourself. Much of the need for control comes from fear. Fear that if life changes, you will not be able to handle it. But look at your own life. You have handled uncertainty before. You have survived disappointment before. You have adapted, learned, and continued before. Letting go does not mean trusting that everything will happen exactly as you want. It means trusting that whatever happens, you can meet it with courage, discipline, and a clear mind. This is the freedom Stoicism points toward. Not a life where everything obeys you, but a life where you no longer lose yourself when things do not. You stop trying to control every person, every outcome, every delay, and every future possibility. You return to the only place where your command is real. Your own mind, your own actions, your own character. And once you understand this, you begin to see the next lesson clearly. Abundance was never about having more. It was about needing less. The sixth Stoic lesson is this: embody abundance, but understand what abundance truly means. It is not about pretending life is perfect, chasing endless possessions, or believing success will appear without effort. Real abundance begins when you stop living as if something outside you must arrive before you can feel complete. Many people think they need more money, more attention, more approval, more opportunities, or more certainty before they can have peace. But if your mind is always hungry, even more will never feel like enough. Epictetus taught that wealth is not found in having many possessions, but in having few wants. That is a deeply Stoic idea. A person ruled by desire is poor, no matter how much they own. A person who can govern desire is rich, even before life gives them everything they want. This does not mean you should stop growing, working, or improving your life. It means you stop approaching life from inner poverty, as if you are empty until the world fills you. Scarcity says, I do not have enough, so I am not enough. Abundance says, I already have the ability to act with wisdom, discipline, courage, and gratitude today. That shift changes how you move through the world. A scarcity mindset compares constantly, complains easily, and sees every delay as proof that life is against it. A Stoic mindset sees what is still possible. It asks, what is already in my hands? What can I use? What can I learn? What step can I take now? Imagine two people walking into the same room. One immediately compares themselves to everyone else. They notice who looks more successful, who seems more confident, who has more status, and their energy becomes heavy. Their mind is focused on lack, so even when opportunity is nearby, they struggle to see it. The second person walks in differently. They are not arrogant, but they are grounded. They believe they have something to offer, so they listen, speak, connect, and notice possibilities. The room is the same, but the mindset is different. This also applies to relationships. A person living in scarcity believes love is rare, attention must be chased, and rejection means they are not worthy. So they cling to people who give them very little, accept behavior that drains them, and confuse desperation with devotion. But a person living with Stoic abundance does not trade self-respect for attention. They can love deeply, but they do not beg. They can care honestly, but they do not abandon themselves. They know that being alone with dignity is better than being attached to someone who destroys their peace. Abundance also changes how you see time and opportunity. If you believe there is never enough time, never enough chances, never enough good people, never enough room for your success, your mind will keep finding proof of lack. But when you practice gratitude, you begin to see life more clearly. Gratitude does not mean ignoring problems. It means refusing to let what is missing erase what is already present. You may not have everything you want, but you still have a mind to train, a body to discipline, a day to use, and a next action to take. This is why gratitude and ambition must work together. Gratitude without action can become comfort. Ambition without gratitude can become desperation. But when they are joined, you become powerful. You can strive without hating your life. You can improve without despising who you are. You can pursue more without becoming a slave to more. That is Stoic abundance. Wanting growth, but not needing the world to prove your worth every hour. Think of a musician who believes there are no opportunities. Every rejection becomes evidence that the dream is impossible. Every successful person feels like a threat because their mind is fixed on scarcity. They hesitate, avoid risk, and miss chances to grow. But another musician may face the same rejection and see it differently. They treat each closed door as feedback, each failure as practice, each delay as preparation. Not because life is easy, but because their perception keeps them open instead of defeated. So how do you embody abundance in daily life? Start by noticing what you already have before obsessing over what is missing. Act as someone who has enough strength to take the next step. Stop feeding comparison, because another person's success is not proof of your failure. Move with quiet confidence, not because everything is guaranteed, but because you trust your ability to learn, adapt, and endure. Real abundance is not loud. It does not need to prove itself. It is the calm strength of a person who knows that peace begins inside, not after every desire is satisfied. You still work, build, improve, and pursue your goals, but you do it from fullness rather than fear. And once you begin living this way, the final lesson becomes clear. Abundance still requires action, but action must be aligned and then released. The seventh Stoic lesson is this: take aligned action, then let go. Many people misunderstand detachment. They think letting go means doing nothing, waiting passively, or hoping life will somehow reward them without effort. But that is not Stoicism. The Stoic does not avoid action. He acts with discipline, clarity, and courage, then releases the need to control when and how the result appears. There is a difference between aligned action and desperate action. Desperate action is tense. It pushes, forces, obsesses, and panics when results do not come quickly. Aligned action is different. It is calm, but not lazy. It is focused, but not frantic. It says, I will do what is mine to do today, and I will not destroy my peace over what is beyond my control. We live in a culture that glorifies constant grinding. People are taught that if they push hard enough, everything must happen the way they want. But life does not always respond to force. Sometimes the harder you pull, the tighter the knot becomes. Think about sleep. The more desperately you try to force yourself to sleep, the more awake and restless you become. But when you relax, breathe, and stop fighting the moment, sleep often comes naturally. Many things in life work the same way. Success, relationships, healing, and personal growth all require action, but they also require space. You cannot force a relationship to become healthy by suffocating it. You cannot force success to arrive faster by obsessing over every delay. You cannot force growth by hating where you are right now. You can only do your part with discipline, then allow time, reality, and consequence to do what force cannot. Think of a farmer planting seeds. He prepares the soil, plants carefully, waters the ground, and protects what he can. But after that, he does not dig up the seeds every day to demand proof of growth. If he did, he would destroy what he planted. The farmer understands something many people forget. Effort begins the process, but patience allows the process to mature. Life is the same. You plant through action, but you must let time do its work. This applies to relationships. When someone tries too hard, constantly needing reassurance, texting too much, forcing closeness, or chasing validation, their energy becomes heavy. It does not feel like love anymore. It feels like fear. But a person who is calm, confident, and self-respecting creates room for connection to breathe. They show interest, but they do not beg. They care, but they do not cling. They understand that what must be forced usually cannot bring peace. It also applies to your career. Maybe you have been working hard, applying, creating, building, studying, and still the result has not arrived. The temptation is to panic, to believe nothing is working, to push blindly in every direction. But Stoic wisdom says, return to what is within your control. Improve the skill, build meaningful connections, prepare well, stay consistent, take the next intelligent step. Then let go of the demand that life must reward you immediately. Marcus Aurelius would remind us to do what duty requires and accept what follows with steadiness. That is the essence of aligned action. You focus on your effort, your discipline, your mindset, your integrity, and your next decision. You do not obsess over the parts that belong to timing, other people, chance, or fate, because no matter how much you plan, some things will remain outside your control. Fighting that truth only creates more frustration. So how do you practice this daily? First, get clear on your goal and take the necessary steps. Do not only dream, complain, or wait. Prepare, train, learn, speak, create, apply, and show up. Second, release the need to control the exact form and timing of the result. Your job is not to command life like a machine. Your job is to act with wisdom inside the moment you have been given. Third, trust your resilience. Even if the result changes, even if the door closes, even if life takes another direction, you can adapt, grow, and continue. Aligned action is powerful because it removes the poison of desperation. You still move forward, but you no longer move as if your entire worth depends on one outcome. You still care, but you no longer cling. You still work, but you no longer worship the result. This is where real strength begins, when your effort is full, but your soul is not enslaved. At the end of the day, life is not about controlling every outcome. It is about mastering yourself while outcomes unfold. When you stop chasing from fear and start acting from alignment, you become calmer, clearer, and harder to disturb. You do your part. You let go of the rest. And that is where Stoic power becomes real. The final Stoic lesson is simple, but it may take a lifetime to master. Real power comes from within, not from controlling every outcome, not from forcing people to act the way you want, not from making life follow your exact schedule. Real power begins when you stop chasing from fear and start living from self-command. Everything we have spoken about leads back to this truth. Detach from the outcome, because your peace cannot depend on things outside your control. Master your mindset, because the way you judge life determines the way you experience life. Trust the timing of life, because no great thing is built in a single moment. Act with purpose, not desperation, because fear will make you chase what wisdom would tell you to release. Let go of control, because trying to manage everything only drains the strength you need for what is truly yours. Embody abundance, because a person who always needs more before feeling whole will never be free. And finally, take aligned action, do your part fully, then let the rest unfold. This is not weakness. This is not giving up. This is not pretending that your goals, relationships, or dreams do not matter. Stoicism does not ask you to care less about life. It teaches you to suffer less from the illusion that everything must happen your way before you can be at peace. You can still work hard. You can still love deeply. You can still build, grow, risk, and pursue something meaningful. But you no longer hand your inner world to things you cannot command. Marcus Aurelius lived with responsibility, pressure, uncertainty, and loss. Yet the lesson that remains from his reflections is not that life becomes easy when you are wise. The lesson is that wisdom makes you steady even when life is not easy. You may not control the delay, but you control your discipline. You may not control the rejection, but you control your response. You may not control another person's heart, but you control whether you abandon yourself trying to win it. You may not control the future, but you control the kind of person walking toward it. So take a deep breath and ask yourself, where have I been forcing what needs patience? Where have I been chasing what requires self-respect? Where have I been trying to control what was never mine? The answer may show you exactly where your peace has been leaking away. From this moment, return to what is yours: your effort, your mindset, your choices, your discipline, your character. Do the next right thing. Speak with honesty. Work with focus. Love without begging. Wait without despair. Release without bitterness. And trust that even when life does not move according to your plan, you can still move through it with dignity. That is Stoic power. Not loud, not desperate, not fragile. Quiet strength. Inner command. The ability to act fully and let go peacefully. When you live this way, life no longer has to be perfect for you to remain steady. You stop chasing. You stop forcing. You stop collapsing when things change. You become the kind of person who can meet uncertainty without losing the self. If this reflection helped you see life differently, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom inspired by Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. And remember, do your part with discipline. Release what is not yours and keep your peace where it belongs within you.